Morning, thanks for coming along. My name's Paul McElvaney. I'm the co-founder and chief exec of Learning Pool, and this session's about Adapt Learning, which is a new project that we started working on about a year ago. Can I take a show of hands? Anyone heard of Adapt? Oh, we've got a few. Keep your hand up if you consider yourself to be an Adapt expert. Right, thank God for that. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little bit of an intro today. The brains behind the operation is Lindsey Coode, who's our. This is a really. There you go. Lindsey is our head of content at Learning Pool and has been living and breathing the Adapt Learning story for about the last 18 months or so. So Lindsey's going to talk about some of the detail and show you some of the work that we've done. So just to give you, for those non-experts in the room who are getting to grips with Adapt maybe for the first time, just to give you a bit of an overview of what the product is, just to get us started this morning. So Adapt is an open source framework for e-learning that allows you to create fully responsive HTML5 content. So there are two parts of the project. There's an open source framework, which is a tech framework that allows you to build content if you're a developer, and then there's a online builder, an authoring tool effectively that's available online for users to download or to use from a provider to allow anyone to create content. And we've been using the builder at Learning Pool for about the last 18 months or so, and the joy of the builder is that we've been able to drive down substantially the cost of delivering really fantastic e-learning content, and also giving that to our customers in a way that's completely updatable by them, sort of at zero or very low cost. So Adapt Learning has really transformed for us as a business in the last 18 months, how we build and deliver content, and as a result we're really excited about that. A few of the features of Adapt that are probably of interest. So Adapt delivers e-learning that uses deep scrolling, as opposed to a sort of side-to-side next button, which when we rolled this out at the start of the project was quite a new, innovative thing to do. These days it's a bit more commonplace, but the user experience that we've had feedback from 1 million learners across the UK says that actually deep scrolling is a great way for people to learn. One of the other features of Adapt that we really like is the fact that Adapt gives you this amazing visual canvas that you can build your e-learning against. And that's great for people who are seasoned e-learning professionals and also novices who are coming to e-learning for the first time and really want to get started but want to create something that looks really professional and smart. So the attraction of that is sort of not to be underestimated. Adapt also uses these things called components as opposed to templates. So Adapt allows you to build your own components, but also to take components that are freely available and use those as you wish. The content using Adapt Builder is also completely editable. So one of the big attractions for using Adapt is that because it's an open standards-based approach, you can edit the content without having to go back to your supplier all the time. And of course, it sort of goes without saying these days, but Adapt works on multiple devices, so all of your content comes pre-packaged, ready to roll out on tablet devices and smartphones. The other thing about Adapt is that it's an open source project, so what that means is that there's no vendor lock-in, and it means that the cost of Adapt is driven right to the ground. There's an open source collaboration between a number of e-learning providers in the UK, of which we're one of the primary ones. In terms of where we're at right now, in terms of Adapt, so just before I hand over to Lindsey, we've built 400 e-learning modules in the last year using Adapt, and are delivering those to our customers for them to use and customize, which they're doing. We've got 300 customers across the UK who use the Adapt Builder in anger. Not too much anger, actually. The feedback of using the builder has been great. Actually, the feedback from our users has been that the speed to competence in terms of using Adapt Builder is about 4 hours. So we've created an e-learning based solution in our academy that allows authors, folks like you, to get up to speed on Adapt in about 4 hours and go and create your own content. Components are the things that drive Adapt content. and there are 52 of those available right now. And because this is an open source project and there's a pretty impressive roadmap around, we're working on another 18 that we're about to release. The history of the project is that the framework was released first and the builder's been released has come after that, which is a product of you got to have a framework before you have a builder. The version of the builder that we've shown you just now is freely available in the open source community and also available. We provide it as a hosted service to all of our customers. The builder works off version 1.1 of the framework, which is the latest, most up-to-date version of the framework. So those two things are in sync. There is a version 2 of the framework coming out, and there will be a bit of a lag between that and version 2 of the builder, but not a great deal, I would suspect. So the two parts of the product are pretty closely aligned, and as a contributor to the project, what we build in the open source, what we build commercially, we release the core back to the open source community, so they're always bang up to date and bug fixed and all that.
What I'm going to do now is just show you some examples of content that we've created in Adapt. So this is one of our adult social care courses at Learning Pool. We have a suite of catalogues. We work in social care, we work in finance, hospitality, but this is kind of one that we've done quite recently, and our social care suite is one of the first that we've converted fully to Adapt, so we spent quite a lot of time doing that. What you're looking at the moment is using what we call the base theme. This is built into the Adapt Builder, okay? So this is one that's kind of freely accessible, and it gives you the option to change a number of things to tailor it to suit you, okay? So as you can see, you've got the logo up there which says Adult Social Care, so that indicates that it's a Learning Pool suite, but that can be changed to any logo, your customers' logos. And also you can change any of the background images, and you can also change all the colours on that, okay? So I'm just going to take you through so we can have a bit of a look. As we said, it's a responsive design, so this is looking at it on a kind of a desktop-ish size screen. Obviously it's changed slightly for that. We can then take it down to make it down to, let's start off at a tablet size. So you can see that the layout's not hugely different, but it has changed slightly. And then if we take it down a bit further to more like a mobile phone size, you can see that it reconfigures. This is all based on the same version. So for those of you that are designing and developing e-learning content, you don't need to create different versions. It will take all your text, it will take all your images and reconfigure it, move it around to make it suit the screen size that you're viewing it on. You can also see obviously that here you get the rollovers. When you take it down to a mobile phone size, you're more likely to be using a touch screen. So some of those little bits they don't get shown because they're not easy to activate. But they're bits that can help with the learning if you are sat at a desktop. So we'll just have a look at some components. I think Paul said that Adapt works on components rather than templates. And it's really to do with how the layout works. So you have articles, blocks, and components. Articles are full width, and then within that you can put your block which holds your components. Your components can be left side, right side, you can work them either way, okay? So you get a bit of variety on your layout. So this is an example of a narrative component. We use these often for kind of storytelling. Somebody's in a situation and then you want to kind of look at how that continues and give them that feel of kind of the moving forwards, okay? So you've just got these little arrows that you click there. This one is also quite a good one to demonstrate what happens when you go down to mobile phone size. Because you can see here, it's got exactly the same content, you've got the same graphics, but you scroll through in the same way. Obviously we don't have the screen size to have it left and right, so instead we just click on here and it brings up the information that you would have had to the right hand side of it, just in a slightly different format. Okay. We also have a number of kind of navigational aids. So this is your progress tracking. This is what shows your learners where they've been, what they need to do, what they need to do next. It's also really important if you're looking at doing completion tracking. So if you need to know that someone has done every component in there, then that's how you can track this. So you can see, obviously I've just completed the first one, that's why that's filled in. I can jump down to one that's way down in the page. But obviously this is a long scrolling page, so all it's doing is just taking me a bit further down and I can scroll back up to find out where I need to be. We've got In terms of the components, I would say you've got all the normal kind of templates of old. You've got your multiple choice questions, you've got your clickable text, your clickable graphics. We have some new ones and we're working on new ones all the time, so they'll be coming through to the builder as and when they get completed. We have a suite of modules around financial skills, mainly aimed at kind of insurance industry. I'm just going to load up the preview here so that we can show you. And this has a very different design. So what's behind this, all the components, all the navigation, all that kind of stuff works in the same way, but what we've done is kind of reskinned it. So we've put some custom CSS on it to make it look quite different, to give it a different feel. So as you can see instantly, it's a very different look and feel. It's modern, it's got the white backgrounds, it's got the different types of images. As you roll over each one, it kind of brings it to the forefront to give it a bit of movement, and then you can go through and just click on each one to find out a bit more about it. So again, that works well when you go onto mobile because you're not relying on things like rollovers, which don't work that well on touchscreens. So what we're finding is the more that we design for mobile, for tablets and things like that, you just learn the little things that make learners' lives easier and therefore mean that they don't get frustrated with your learning, basically. So as I said, we've got the same components. We have added in some navigational elements into this one that work slightly differently. So we've still got the progress bar that works in a very similar way. Instead of having to return back to the main menu, we've got it kind of more as like a pop-up that comes up, and you can then choose to jump to any of those sections, or you can choose to return to the main menu if you wish to. This is an example of a customer module that we did. This was for Four Seasons Healthcare. As you can see, it's fairly specific content. It's quite detailed content. It's stuff that people really need to know and need to know well. Again, it's got a different style to it. We work very closely with our customers to find out kind of more about their brand, about what they're trying to put across, and this is how we came up with the design for this one. So, again, slightly different menu layout. So we can scroll through these blocks, and then when we're ready, when we've decided which one we want to look at, we can just click into it. Something else that's different in Adapt, we tend to refer to pages rather than sections, although again, that's a personal choice. Within the builder, they're called pages. What you call them for your learner is obviously entirely up to you. I think this is quite a nice example, actually, this first one on the standards and competencies that shows really well how things can be reconfigured for mobile. So you effectively got the same content, but obviously those of you that have used other authoring tools that claim to work on kind of mobile devices, what they tend to do is shrink the screen down. So obviously where you've got a graphic like this one, you're going to end up with very small text. It's not easy to read, certainly not easy to navigate. So Adapt works slightly differently, and what it does is it gives you the option to make it work slightly differently. This one happens automatically, actually. When you have a clickable graphic, because you can't really have it on that same scale, it takes it down to a narrative. So it has quite similar functionality, but just slightly different to make it work better on the device that you're using. So again, you can kind of scroll through each of these, and then you can tap on them to get the information. Whereas when we go back up to the full screen, you can see it's a clickable graphic, so you're clicking on the pins rather than clicking on the plus button, and you can scroll through those. It's worth saying as well that there's a number of types of different clickable graphics, so you can either scroll through them if you want to, or you can take away that option, so people actually have to go back, so you keep the context. It's something that, as we've been working with our customers, people have very different views on what they prefer. People that want to get through things quickly quite like this scrolling way because it means you're not constantly closing and going back. But other people that feel the context is really important would rather have them go back to the main image and look at that before they proceed. So that's an option within the builder. One of the things that I think also works really well in this, because of the type of content that it is, there's a lot of regulatory content, and they've used the accordions really nicely to look at all the care certificate standards. So rather than just having this big long list of what's being covered by this module, what you can tick off in terms of what you know and how you achieve that standard, they've just used the accordions to break it up. So most people that are working through this content will know what those 12 standards are. But they probably don't know the deeper level of it, so it just means that they can get a bit of a better understanding. It's quite a nice way of laying it out. At Learning Pool, we're currently working on our core skills catalogue. It's basically a bunch of content that really is relevant for pretty much anyone in any organisation. So you're looking at things like your equality and your diversity, your health and safety, all the things that all employees need to know. And one of the ones that we've just done is performance appraisal. So you can see here that we've got guides to employees, guides to managers, and then we've got the bottom one, which is quite a lot of detail on the interview itself. So I said earlier, this is basically the builder. So what you can see down here, where you've got introduction, conducting the performance appraisal, all that kind of thing, is exactly what you will see when we go into the preview area, okay? So you've got your introduction, conducting the appraisal. So they're your pages. If we go back to here, you click into these, and what I was saying earlier about the articles, blocks, and components, that's where this fits in. So what you're seeing here is kind of the big bit that goes fully across the screen is your article. You've then got your block, and then on either side you've got your components, okay? What I'm actually going to do before I start fiddling with this is go and make a copy of one of these courses. So it's just come up saying copy of the performance appraisal. I can save that off. And this is how you would go about kind of if you were creating a version 2 of a course, is you would make a copy of it before you went in and changed it so that you don't lose everything. It says copy of performance appraisal, so I know I'm working in the right one. And currently, this section only has one article, okay? So that's the only thing that's in there. You can see there's nothing else. So what we need to do is the first thing you have to do is add an article. We then need to add a component. And you get the option. These are all of the components that are there. So I won't go through them in great detail now. At Learning Pool, we've done quite a lot of webinars. We also have what we call the Learning Pool Academy that will take you through all this in much more detail. I'm just trying to give you a flavour for it at the moment. So if you're interested, you can come and speak to us afterwards and we can give you more details. But yeah, as I said, there's lots of components here. I'm looking for a narrative, so I'm going to click on narrative. And as I said, you can either have a narrative that's on the left side, the right side, or in the middle, which is full width. I'm going to go for a full width one. You can basically copy and paste from your storyboard or wherever you've got your information stored, or you can type directly into Adapt if you wish. Although we don't really recommend it, just because with anything it's much easier to do your design phase on a piece of paper, sketch things out, get all your ideas down first before you go into the tool to do it, but it's perfectly possible too. Okay, so that's my main text added in. I'm now going to add in the narrative items. So you've probably noticed that we tend to say click or tap rather than the old kind of click wherever. Obviously the reason for that is that you don't know what device someone is using, so therefore you need to kind of assume that they might be using a touch screen or a desktop. Right, so I'm just going to go and add in the graphics. This is what's called the Asset Manager. And this is basically, you can store all of your images in here. If you know that you're working on a number of courses and you may want to reuse some of the images, the better your tagging and things like that, then the easier it will be for you to find. So I just select that one. And then I just need to add my text in for that first component, first narrative, sorry. And that's the first block of my narrative done, okay? You can see that's here. So I'm then going to just add one more, and then I can demo it and just show you kind of how quickly it comes through. That's my second graphic uploaded, chosen. Then all I need to do now is paste my last bit of text in. And I can select that, and then I just need to save it. And then once that's saved, I can preview it. And you can see the performance appraisal story and background is my second component. So if I just do that through scrolling, It's come down to here, and this is the bit that I just added in. This is the component I just added. So you can see you've got the images that I added there. When you click next, you go to the second one, so you can talk about kind of the differences between them.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time, and thanks to Lindsey for managing to get through that demo live, which is never straightforward. All right, glad I didn't do that. Thanks, guys.